to Coffee with the PSL Mayor. I'm Teresa Aronson from the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce. It's our pleasure, our honor to do this event every second Friday of the month. It's free, it's open to the public. We have coffee in Danish, courtesy of Culinary Village. And we'd love for all of you to join us right down here in City Chambers. And please welcome, of course, the reason why we do this, my co-host, my friend, the one, the only mayor of this beautiful city of Port St. Lucie, Gregory Oravec.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you. And let the record reflect that you can always have tea.
Tea?
Coffee with the mayor.
Do we? Well, you say that, but I'm pretty sure Brandon brings your tea down.
Nice green tea.
I don't think it's out there.
That's right. He's quite the. I don't know. Is a tea maker a barista too, or no? Baristas only make coffee.
Is it? I don't know. Is there a distinction? I mean, I know baristas make tea, but if you don't make coffee, are you a barista? That's the question of the day.
I'm not a coffee
Everybody's going to be riveted until we determine the answer.
Please, someone Google that.
We can't leave the room until the answer is discovered.
All right. Excellent.
What do you got going on? This shall air in June, and June is a very, very, very busy month.
We have a bunch of movers and shakers here.
So you're whatever we tell them today, they're going to get out on their Facebook, and so people will see this. But our television viewers will have said, "I should have went," because this will have passed.
But there'll be an opportunity for them also. So, how are you doing on your steps, by the way?
Very well, I do believe. However, I can't get my. It's a long story. I don't want to get in the weeds with my issues with the computer, but it's not going well.
All right. Well, it's.
But I do have a step counter separate. Can I put them in?
Yes, you absolutely can.
Okay.
How many people here are participating in the Billion Step Challenge?
Just Sean and Ashley.
Right.
Employee Sean and Ashley.
And me, but notice her hand is down.
I am.
So 4 out of 40, we're not doing as well as we want to do. So this year we're partnering up with St. Lucie County. They like to be called the Health Department of St. Lucie County because really it's state, but they're in the county. So they're pretty particular about their name, but the Health Department. Health Department, Healthy St. Lucie. We are trying to get healthy as a community this year, and getting healthy is not as difficult as we sometimes make it. You can eat right and you can exercise and hopefully do both. This year we decided to shine the spotlight on getting healthy because even if you have a couple peanut M&Ms last night, you could just do a little bit more exercise and burn those off. So, and a lot of times we say, well, we got to go to the gym, we got to do this, we got to do that to get healthy. Really, if you could just elevate your heart rate on a regular basis, hopefully daily, through a brisk walk, you could live a healthier, better life. And so,
if I elevate it through stress, is that the same?
No, it's not the same. That's actually counterproductive because your body creates hormones and other things,
crud.
Yes, and it actually will hurt you. But the good news is that walk will take that stress away. Like if you're worried about where your tent is at Fishing Frenzy, or if you're going to have good weather.
And you can't use private conversations.
No, I can't. It happens. No. It happens every day.
Not to shame me in public, but stress should do something.
Yeah. So if you walk, it'll take that away. And as a community, we're trying to walk 1 billion steps. And so at cityofpsl.com/billion with a B steps. I'm looking at my buddy Sarah, Communicator of the Year over there. Sometimes she says million steps, but no, it's billion with a B.
It's a B.
It's really easy to sign up. It takes 5 seconds. If you have a smartphone or a Fitbit, if you're like really fancy like Trissa, but for the rest of us, if you just have a smartphone, it can count your steps. And then if you sign up and join an existing team or start your own, like you could be the PGA Clubhouse team, Jack, and it'll count them, and then it'll aggregate them. And right now, I want to say that we're closing in on 300 million steps, but we're going to need you if we're going to get to 1 billion by the end of the year. Our number of teams are still climbing. Our number of participants, we're getting close to 900, but we need all of you. So we only hit about 10% in this room. So please go to cityofpsl.com/billion steps.
Very good. And a lot of people count on their phone anyway. I mean, there's Pacer and all kinds of programs, but you can put that in. And I don't have a Fitbit. I got something at Aldi that is Fitbit adjacent.
It just shows that you're a very frugal shopper.
I am such a frugal shopper. You have no idea.
I'm sure all the chamber members are pleased with that.
Very frugal, I promise. Very good. What else do we? I know we have to visit with our Children's Services Council.
Well, we don't have to. We just like to.
We do. We enjoy it.
It is very friendly.
Somewhat optional. And then we are going to recognize our children's our Community Impact Award winner. Very good.
Excellent. You're getting better and better at that.
It's only been, what, 2-3 years?
Let's accentuate the positive.
Yes. So we're going to do that in just a few minutes, but then when we come back, we can talk a little bit about what's going on in the city. There's a lot of...
Let's just go to questions today. I'm in the mood
You're in the mood for questions? Okay, we could do that too when we get back. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to visit with Sean and see what he's brought us today, because I always love that part, because it's usually somebody incredibly worthy that we get to recognize. So stay with us, everybody. Welcome back to Coffee with the Port St. Lucie Mayor. I'm Teresa Aronson, President and CEO of the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce. Don't forget, you too can join our studio audience. We give you free pastry and coffee courtesy of Culinary Village. We meet the second Friday of every month, 8:30, right here in City Chambers at City Hall. Of course, my co-host is always with me, the one, the only Mayor of the beautiful city of Port St. Lucie.
Did you see that? I guess
We're just we'll just do a voiceover for that. It'll the beautiful city of Port St. Lucie.
The funny thing is that I did actually bid on and win an auction that made me mayor of Fort Pierce for the day.
Oh, very nice.
As
So
you
now
may
you're
know, I have a very direct style of problem solving, and I thought that the easiest way to bring us together would just be to buy the
Buy
certificate.
your way in.
Yes.
Consolidate it all.
That's it.
It says on here you have to cooperate with me for the entire day. No.
It made coordination very easy.
Very good. Okay, I like it. Well, thank you. Welcome. And we have, of course, with us from the Children's Services Council of St. Lucie County, their Executive Director, Sean Boyle. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're happy to do this. I was telling the mayor, I'm always happy to do this because the people that we honor here aren't people I typically run into in the business community. They're often, working with our children, which is what the Children's Services Council is charged with, correct?
Absolutely. Our mission is to improve the quality of life for all children in St. Lucie County.
Okay, great. And who did you bring with us? Who's
At least
our...
that's not a big job.
Yeah.
Short mission,
There's just like
yeah.
It's broad though. I mean, it covers so much stuff.
So stay with me while I weave this one, right?
Okay.
A little bob and weave.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
So
Okay. See if we can follow.
At the Children's Services Council, I already said our mission to improve the quality of life for all children.
Yep.
And we're really big on accountability at the Children's Services Council, because we feel like we have to be accountable to the community to make sure that we're having a positive impact.
Of course you do, because you collect tax dollars.
Right, with children and families, and that's a good segue. And we also have to be highly accountable with the funds.
Yeah.
Because if we're not accountable with the funds, we can't have the positive impact that we have on the community.
Right.
Because we are stewards of the taxpayer dollars. So today we fund a program through New Horizons, the Student Assistance Program, just a small program that reaches every single fifth grader in St. Lucie County. I'm joking about the small part.
How many fifth graders do we have?
A lot.
Officially, a whole bunch.
A whole bunch, yes. You can quote me on that. And the program works to, best practice program touches every fifth grader to help reduce the use of substance use as well as violence and bullying. And the impact that it's had since we implemented it in 2000 is every 2 years they do a survey on youth substance use in our school systems. And every year since we've implemented the program, we've gone down and down and down, largely attributable to this program. But in order for it to make it work, again, accountable with the dollars.
Okay.
Stay with me, I'm working there.
Trying.
Accountable with the dollars is we are just one of the funders that helps put this thing together, because it's a rather large program to reach every single fifth grader. So we brought with us Kim Janson, who works with us and New Horizons to make sure that every dollar is accounted for and that the program works together with multiple funders.
Okay. So, Cliff's Note version, you are the steward of the dollars for the fifth graders, correct?
Yeah, and how many fifth graders?
A bunch.
See?
I said that officially a
verified
bunch. Okay, so first of all, you said substance abuse. So it starts, fifth graders have substance abuse issues, yes?
No, well, so, little lesson.
I didn't say it.
If you want to prevent the use of substance use, you can't you can't do it in the middle of high school because
Hold on a
they're
second.
already there.
Are you saying that we just, when we're confronted with the problem, we just can't put our head in the sand?
No, absolutely.
Until it happens and then, start
And then
freaking
freak
about.
Right.
So we should be educated.
Exactly.
All right.
Oh,
That's an important note for all problem solving.
Yes, that makes total sense. Okay, so we start, it was kind of the Nancy Reagan version of, start young, teach them before they try it.
Right.
educate them before they.
But educate them. You have to do more than just say no. You have to actually educate them, give them the skills. And that's what that program does.
To resist. Okay, very good.
I still remember an egg frying in a pan. I thought that was very effective. Your brain.
Do y'all remember that, or you? Oh, see, even the young ones remember that. That was very powerful stuff. What kind of programs do you do with them?
Now, when I was explaining,
Why do I feel like I stumped them?
when I was explaining,
Oh, that's right. She's checking off the dollars and tracking those. She doesn't actually.
she works behind the scenes to make sure that the whole system works by making sure that we are accountable with the dollars.
I said I followed. I didn't follow to the ends, but now I know what you're saying.
So she's like back of house accounting, accountability. And then so we brought her out, gave her a microphone.
And
There
said,
were, hundreds of people and thousands on TV watching.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably very
Thousands.
normal for you, right?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
yes. Okay, very good. So, do you know any of the programs that they?
Sure. So they use a curriculum called Too Good for Drugs, Too Good for Violence.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about
Best practice program, research-based, nationwide, to show that it has a long-lasting impact, but you have to reach them at 5th grade in order to, moving forward,
Okay.
they don't use substance use.
All right, very good. Well, I do want to talk to you about something, but I don't know much about numbers, so I don't know. We got to find some common ground here. We brought her out here. Okay, are you sure you don't want?
Well, how large for this
There you
particular
go.
program? Because it's not just the Children's Services Council. And let me know if I'm putting you on the spot. It's not just.
That ship sailed. Yeah, I mean.
We're down that path. I'm just apologizing ahead of time. So it's at least 2 funders. It's us and Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network. So how large of a program is it, dollars that you're managing for that particular program? We'll go with a lot.
500,000.
Okay.
And we also have Okeechobee Children's Service Council as well.
We don't care about them in St. Lucie County. Just gonna put that out there.
They don't matter here.
He said that in jest.
I did. I love Okeechobee.
It doesn't
Kathleen
mean
Blair.
Okeechobee. Nobody will ever know.
But in the whole scheme of the whole project, yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I mean, it takes a lot, because it's a lot of money. You have to steward a lot of money into the community, and New Horizons, just so we could talk about them for a little bit, because it's one of the under-celebrated resources we have here in the community, and I know you know all about it as well. But their mental health is what they typically work with, and have programs from infant to adult at New Horizons. And when somebody has issues or trouble or needs immediate care, that's typically where they end up, is at New Horizons. And
Well, they have both inpatient and outpatient, and we
Yeah.
as a community, there's a stigma that comes with mental health a lot of times. People think, oh, we can't talk about it, but it's health, If you had the flu, you go to the doctor, right? So if you're struggling with some issues internally, you can go to places like New Horizons and get those problems addressed.
yeah, New Horizons really are unsung heroes. Mental health is systematic of so many community problems, and so we're just glad to have them. We have another mental health hospital here, Port St. Lucie Hospital. It's a private hospital, and so New Horizons ends up with a vast majority of our people in need here in St. Lucie County. So I'm thankful to all the work you guys do out there.
So I'm going to officially give her the
You're going to
award.
officially give her the award. Okay, very good. That sounds like a plan. Kimberly, congratulations for being our Community Impact Award. And you have your annual report is out, so you can see all the numbers and cents and impact and accountability, right?
It's available on our website.
Okay. And what's your website so people can go on there? Because what it does is you have 50 programs now.
50 programs.
And each one of them has to have accountability, a matrix of what they've done and what they've done, used the money for, and what it's resulted in. And
If you want to spend 20 minutes of your day, go to cscslc.org. There's multiple reports on there, but there's two. There's our annual report, which really aggregates community-wide our impact on the community. And then we have what we call our program accountability report. So you can go by every single one of the programs that we fund, see how they spent the money, and see their accomplishments for the year.
yeah, it's no easy task, and to be able to qualify and quantify all those things.
Well, and I will say the reason why we gave Kim the award today is because if we are not good stewards with the dollars, we can't serve our community.
Yeah.
And she's behind the scenes making sure that,
Those
partnering with
dollars.
us to make sure that we are good stewards so that we can accomplish what we want to accomplish.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing us somebody different this time. I enjoyed that. Okay. And we will be right back, and we're going to just jump into questions with the mayor today. So stay with us. Welcome back to Coffee with the
His
Port
muscles
St.
get
Lucie
in the
Mayor.
way.
I know. Mark was our hype man, and it didn't. It was a golf clap at best.
It was very polite, though.
It was very polite. I'm not sure the others heard it. Welcome back to Coffee with Port St. Lucie Mayor. I'm Teresa Aronson from the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce. I'm here with the mayor of Port St. Lucie.
Linda Hudson. Yes, everybody.
No. I think Linda might be at fishing frenzy, though, tonight. But anyway, we're here with the mayor of Port St. Lucie, and you wanted to open it up to questions today. We're just going to get right into questions.
Yes, questions, and then hopefully answers.
Questions. Oh, good. We have some, because I thought it was going to go a different way there.
Quick
Yeah.
John McGraw over there.
Yes. All right. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Dan Couric, and for what it's worth, I'm the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Board for the city of Port St. Lucie. Last night, we spent about an hour and a half with your contract attorney talking about the new sign ordinance, or what's going to happen with the sign ordinance. And I guess there was a lot of concern as to a number of items or a number of things that are going on right now, especially with the realty area, with the fees, the permitting, the stickers, a number of things. And Mayor, I don't know if you're up to speed on this, but I know that this is going to be a big issue as we go forward.
Well, thanks for asking, in case I'm not.
I know it. Well,
Well,
it
I
is.
know you're up to date on
Yeah,
everything.
he's very rarely is he not.
Actually, I actually did some professional contracting work for the Reed case, where all this is coming from. So, and I did get a call from the city manager on my way in this morning, and he very rarely calls me at that time. So I was like, this is, usually it's not good news, but this was just informative news that you did have a spirited meeting last night, about 75 people in attendance.
Ooh.
And at the end of the day, the Supreme Court has decided that if you have to read a sign to know what type of sign it is, that's unconstitutional, because you can't regulate speech based on what's being said. You can still regulate signs based on shape and sign and sometimes color and other things, but if you have to read it, then it's content-based, and that's unconstitutional. So how do you know that it's a real estate sign versus any other type of sign? And so there might have been a lot of discussion last night, but really the path forward for the city is pretty clear. And again, before I mentioned kind of a direct problem solver, it's not us doing this. We are responding to the Supreme Court decision, which was pretty clear. And we would either have to open up the public rights of way to everybody, or just the city for government speech. And I think that that's where we're going. And this is not the only place it's happening. It's happening across the country. So we're just going to have to. People do not like change, and especially they do not like change that they feel negatively impacts them. So we're going to have to be good partners with all of the impacted communities and get through it the best we can. But at the end of the day, I think, as you know, and you probably have studied now a great deal, both here and at the county, it's actually the Supreme Court calling, asking
Yes.
if we implemented our new ordinance yet.
Because it's not a new case. I mean, it's been out.
No, and so I always say that sometimes people ruin it for everyone. So in Gilbert, Arizona, they had a case where certain types of users were allowed to have different size signs, temporary wayfinding signs, like the signs in the side of the road that say, open house this way or church on Sunday. And they treated a church differently than they treated everybody else. And the church said, hey, this isn't fair. You let these other groups have signs that are this big. We only get to have a sign this big. You let those other groups have signs this big for months. You only let us have a sign like this for a few hours. That's not fair. And rather than the city working out the issue, they said, oh, no, it is fair. It is right.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court begs to differ. So as a result of that, sign codes throughout the land have been turned on their heads. And so we'll just have to get through that. So other than pointing it to the Supreme Court and needing to manage it and work with the Realtors Association, what were your other questions or thoughts about that, Dan?
I mean, yeah, wait for that. It boils down to, with everybody having to be treated equally, you can end up with an overabundance or none. It leaves very wiggle room for in the middle, and very little regulation. So that's an issue, and it's an issue for a lot of cities, and I know where they're going with this. As a representative of the business community, it makes it difficult to conduct business as usual, but I do think we have to figure it out and see where we're gonna go from there. I'm sorry, Dan, we got the mic back over, so.
Well, I think there was a combination of, worries about what's going to happen with the new ordinance as it goes forward. There was another, a number of people were worried it was going to get more restrictive, of which I think I think they were very successful in saying, if anything, it's going to get, probably more liberal rather than more restrictive. And of course, I think there was a lot of complaints about the current program, which I think they were trying to, between Russ and Patty Tobin and the attorney Greg that was there, they tried really hard to say, okay, we need to look at these different things. The realtors, I can tell you, that are not really happy about the whole situation as it is right now with the signs, their restrictions, the fees, and a number of other things. And so a lot of that was brought to light. Me is one of the reason I was there, and well, you know why I was there. They also have somewhat of a not really happy about what candidates do and what they do as compared to what the realtor is doing, and they feel that there's an uneven groundwork right there.
Which is why that case went to Supreme Court. I mean, that is the argument for the results of that case, right. Is that, people that were coming hot in on an election season, and people think it's not fair signage. People have different rules, and you can't do that.
However, I was told that the part on election signs probably will not change because that is all right with the law. So, for what it's worth.
Well, thank you. This is more of a discussion than seems like question and answer. So we certainly have a relationship with the Realtors Association. I'm a former realtor. I let my license lapse because I just felt like it could be a conflict here in town. But we have a relationship, happy to continue those conversations. Not everyone loves fees, but those fees have been established for a long time, so I'm not sure what the sensitivity to that is, other than there are fees. The realtors and real estate signs actually have preferential treatment right now under our code, Dan, so because no one else really can put them in the right of way, and they can the easiest. So I do think that will change. I do think that'll become more restrictive, at least I hope, because I don't think the right of way should be a free-for-all for signs. In Port St. Lucie, you are not allowed to put political signs in the right of way. That's currently prohibited. You're allowed to put those in your yard. It's your right to free speech. Moving forward, as we comply with the case, you cannot call something a realtor sign, because how do you know it's a realtor sign? How do you know it's a realtor sign? What do you have to do?
You have to read it.
You have to read it. Therefore, that's forbidden.
Right.
So what you have to do is write your code in such a way that you're allowed to have a sign while your property is for sale. Now, technically, the homeowner could use that for some other purpose, but we know that it's supposed to be associated with the sale. So you can regulate it like that. You can regulate it by total square footage, how big the signs are. You could regulate it by the number of signs you're allowed, but you're not going to be able to call it a realtor sign where you have to read it to know that it's
a realtor.
It's real estate related.
It was a good question, though. Good conversation. I know we had a couple other people that had questions.
Well, Mark right next to
Yeah,
you.
Mark. And then we have somebody in the back.
In the back, yes.
Hi, Mark Kowalski. Can you give us a status update on the property at City Center?
Sure. City Center is, a lot of people think that the city sold it to Lily Zong. We did not. Lily Zong had bought it from DeGuardiola Properties and really negotiated with the bank that was holding the loan on it. When DeGuardiola failed, She bought the property for $500,000, subject to the back taxes and assessments. She allegedly committed fraud. A SEC appointed receiver is responsible for the private properties of City Center, roughly 40 acres, all those green areas you see out there, even the ones on either side of the stage and the fountain, those are owned by that entity, which there's a receiver over. His name is Mr. Goldberg, and he reports to a court. He is currently in negotiations with a group, and there's a contract flying back and forth. I have not personally been made privy to that contract, but I did speak to the prospective buyer this week, and we'll see what happens moving forward, but his intention is to put it under contract. He has expressed a desire to build it out pursuant to the master plan that we're all familiar with, provided that all his due diligence checks out. So, a deal is never done until the check clears, but it seems that they've been negotiating for a number of weeks. Unfortunately, when there's an SEC appointed receiver and a court involved, nothing moves like lightning, quite the opposite. But there's reasons to be hopeful there. And it's my hope that Crosstown is going to continue just to be an amazing project, a construction project. That's scheduled to open November of 19. That at that time we would have something going vertical at City Center, and then I think everyone here knows that the county and the cities have joined on a proposed sales tax referendum. Mm-hmm. And if that sales tax referendum is approved, a portion of the sales tax will go towards improving US 1. But no matter how it's funded, my hope is that we beautify and improve US 1 same time Crosstown opens in November of 19, at the same time that City Center is going vertical, so we can really revitalize our US 1 corridor.
And the Chamber appreciates the fact that you put together a priority list for the sales tax funds, and you took a poll from the community and you figured out what they wanted and you put a list accordingly together. We appreciate that because we want to know where it's going to go directly. We had another question in the back.
Yeah, sure. My name is Linnea Richardson, and I'm new in Port St. Lucie. I love the city. It's so beautiful, so clean. But like everything else in life, there's a but, right?
Yep.
Doesn't have to be. You could use a different conjunction.
You could have just stopped.
I wish I didn't have
Even
the
and sometimes.
Yeah. I'm a little confused. When I moved out here, I bought a house in a hurry, and I didn't inspect the city a lot, all the problems. And now I'm facing an issue with the dark streets, like where I live. There is not one single light in the entire street. And I find to be weird because where do I go? How do I fix? And in my perspective, I think it needs to be fixed because it's dark, it's safety issues, and so that's one issue. Then the other two maybe sounds a little bit silly, but as a city, I want to speak up, and maybe I'm sure you don't have an answer, but maybe we start thinking about it. It's I love the beaches, and I think that the beaches are very beautiful, but I also find out that the public beaches don't have safeguards, they don't clean, and I thought that I don't know, I just thought that should be an issue. And then one quick issue that also I came here to today, not only for this meeting, because I have issues in the back of my house, and the city decided that they're going to clean. I don't know if I made clear. I asked to clean the ground, and now they want to cut the trees. And I don't want them to cut the trees.
All right, so we got
So
three.
that was a 3-for-1 special.
First, and we're going to try to get through them.
Yeah, we'll pop through these.
We'll pop through them. The first one is streetlights. There is a process for that. How do you do that?
All right, so with streetlights in Port St. Lucie, and I'm just going to back out first because you probably want to talk to my friend Derek Gravesand up here because this is one of his big issues too. And one of the delicate parts of this job is balancing competing opinions and priorities of 185,000 people and counting. So believe it or not, in our city the 8th most populous city in the state. We don't all think the same thing. I know, it's hard to believe. And what we found here in Port St. Lucie is some people really want lights everywhere, like you and Derek, and other people do not. And to manage that difference of opinions, we've come up with a system where neighborhoods and streets in residential areas can petition for streetlights and then hold a local election. And if the street decides to have streetlights, you will have streetlights through what we call a special assessment district set up for your street. And then FPL comes in, provides the lights, and you pay a small fee on your annual tax bill as a non-ad valorem assessment, and it's done. As a city, we put lights on our arterial roads. So Aroso, Bayshore, Gatlin, Becker, our major roadways, crosstown, they're going to get streetlights. But just like you want those lights, I got an email this week from a group that wants dark skies. They do not want lights. They are as passionate about not having lights as you and Derek are for having lights. And I and the council, we represent all of you. So in order to navigate those treacherous, shark-infested waters, we have to work with you on a really localized level. And believe it or not, that actually ties in. There's a connection there to sidewalks too. Sidewalks, one of our major priorities, huge part of the proposed sales tax.
Yep.
Polled #1, and it wasn't just like a poll that we threw out onto a newspaper webpage or our webpage. I mean, we hired someone to do a scientific poll on sidewalks right at the top of our list. As much as we want sidewalks on busy roads, there are some quiet, single-family neighborhoods that
Don't want
if you tried putting a sidewalk down their road, there would be an armed rebellion at City Hall by 5 o'clock.
Yeah, but I think it's fair to say that safety is the primary issue of government, and so you got to get those sidewalks first on the arterial roads and major corridors through the city.
Oh, yes.
And so your neighborhoods are going to be a little bit lag behind in that. But I think it's important to note that if you want streetlights, it's kind of majority rules. You have to get your neighbors, and you have to be willing to pay for those lights, which I think is fair. And all of them have to, the majority of them have to say, yes, we want them.
And you could just go to cityofpsl.com, and you could go to the search bar and type in streetlights. You could probably also find it on the city clerk's page because she administers the program. But all of that information and the whole process is detailed, the whole 9 yards,
Exactly
right
what you
there.
need. Beaches.
Beaches, the city of Port St. Lucie barely touches the Indian River Lagoon. So we stop where Walton Road hits the Indian River Drive. So we have about 4 lots there. We do not go across. So with the beaches, it's a matter of working with your county commissioners and perhaps a little bit of City of Fort Pierce, depending on the beach. But this is a really good opportunity to talk about effective lobbying, whether you're trying to lobby the city, the county, or any governmental entity. You could lobby Children's Services Council. If you can be as direct and specific as possible, it's always very helpful. So rather than talk about it generally, you might talk with a general conversation, but then show photos, specific locations, and the type of problems you're concerned with. Because I think you're going to find all good elected officials want to help in some way. But in order to help them help us, you got to give them the actionable item that in the course of 185,000 competing priorities, or in their case, 306,000 competing priorities, make it easy to help solve that problem and to really just vividly exhibit that there is a problem. The kind of the more graphic, the better. But if you have that type of information, I'll be happy to send a letter to the county commissioner, the district commissioner, or the chairwoman on your behalf.
And Fort Pierce has some populated beaches too. I'm right by the jetty, but in reality, Port St. Lucie's beach is at Club Med. We don't have one on the ocean, so you don't have the authority to give lifeguards because that's not your jurisdiction out on the beach. Only Club Med is the only beach in the city of Port St. Lucie.
And then with trees, I'm happy to take the specific location, investigate further, but I'm 99.8% sure that we're not cutting down trees unless they're Brazilian peppers, and Brazilian peppers have to be cut down. They're invasive exotic, and I know that they create a green curtain. Do you have follow-up for me?
Are they Brazilian peppers, do you know?
I'm sorry. Maybe that's the case then. I love the trees, but I think the guy came into my home that they say they were coming up in about 5 to 10 days from now, they're going to cut everything. And maybe I have to check that. Maybe he said that type of trees attracts snakes, which is the cause of the problem in my property. Maybe I have to check that then.
Brazilian peppers are invasive, so we do need to eradicate them as much as we can. But the other thing is that like we don't have beaches, and Port St. Lucie is in St. Lucie County, jurisdictions are overlapped and confusing to the general public. Sometimes South Florida Water Management is cutting your trees. Sometimes Florida Power and Light is cutting. You know, you have to identify who's coming out to cut your trees, what kind of trees they're cutting, and then probably you can help a little further.
Yes, I mean, I really can think of very few times the city would cut down a good tree.
Yeah.
A lot of the tree trimming that you see around town is that, you know, of course, if there's a power line involved, it's going to be FPL or utility. St. Lucie West Services District has done some cutting for stormwater.
Yep.
So in cases where there's a stormwater project, that could be a situation where an area is cleared. But outside of that, you know, creation of a park, unless it's a major public improvement where, yes, the land has to be cleared, it has to be leveled. The only time we're going to really be cutting down trees is if it's sick or a danger. And the only other time is if we're doing our lot cutting program because of encroachment. And those are Brazilian peppers. Those are not oak trees, pine trees, or any type of beneficial tree that's getting cut down. And, you know, a lot of people, they're upset afterwards because the Brazilian pepper grows fast and is green.
It has a lot of shade.
But it's not supposed to be here, and they have to be removed.
It's choking out the others.
That's right.
Yeah, very good.
All right, 3 for
Thank you
1.
for that
Thank you.
3-question marathon. All right, do we have any other questions before
Last,
we?
we'll make it the last one.
Oh, okay, last question. I thought Derek was getting up to ask a question, but he was just seeing if anybody else was.
He was making his streetlight list.
I see that.
Yeah.
Have you started the process of?
I think he did it. Yeah.
You did it? Good.
But
Good
he
for you.
wants to bring it citywide.
Oh, he does.
Yes.
Well, for those people that don't want it, they have a right to not want it. And my thing is, for the folks that don't want it, they have kids, grandkids that live in that area. And if they're catching the school buses in the morning, I mean, they need to have some kind of security lights for their own kids that's catching the school buses in the morning. You know, so to me, you know, we could speak to them and ask them, you know, you don't want the lights, but yet you still have kids and grandkids catching school buses early in the morning. And in the wintertime, early in the morning, it's very dark in some of those corners those kids have to wait for the buses. So to me, for a safety thing for their own kids, they should have some lights at least on that corner, if not on the streets where their houses are.
And I think there's some argument to strategically placed lights, but I may be one of those people that doesn't love the idea of having a light in front of my house. I live on the water. I have enough mosquitoes, thanks. And my kids are grown, but there's no houses next to me. So I'm not in a very major area where there's going to be a lot of kids passing through. So I mean, I think you have to, and some people like the skies. I like to view the stars, and there's few places within cities anymore that you can actually see them. So out in my area you can, and I want to keep it that way.
I know. So, I love you both
Yeah.
equally. So you just try to balance it and get people to
See?
come together on that. And what I would say, in addition to the street light process that we have for citywide, you can go to FPL and pay for a light to be put on a pole. So that is a different option that you, as just an individual property owner, can make that request. And then, you know, a lot of times people don't understand all of the constraints the city is under on problem solving. So when we talk about bus stops, you know, that sounds like a common sense idea. It might even be a common sense idea to put in a shelter and a garbage can so that we can keep Port St. Lucie beautiful.
I'd kill for a garbage can at the bus
Right?
stop.
But we can't, the school district is separately elected officials. You know, we can work together voluntarily as a partnership, but we can't compel each other to do anything really. In fact, even school design and permitting is carved out by Florida law. The city can't even tell the school board how to build a school.
Right.
We definitely can't tell them how to put their bus stops.
Yeah.
So we can't even get the school district to put bus stops in strategic locations, and they cannot guarantee us that if we build a shelter that there'll be a bus stop next year. Every year they do a population study of where their kids are and put their stops most efficiently.
Yeah.
So we've gone through this process of trying to get bus stops in strategic locations where they're not in people's front yards, where there's a vacant lot or a wide corner, and let's get a shelter there to get them out of the elements. Let's keep them off the road. Let's put in a light. And we've done it, and then it's not a bus stop anymore. So, you know, if the world it was different, it
I
would be
do want to
different.
agree with him that, you know, if it is a safety issue, I think that you have to re-examine your priorities there. You know, I like seeing the sky, but if it's a safety issue, that usually outweighs it. We do have motion detecting lights for safety issue, and that's something we've done personally, because we do have a bus stop near us, and so I do get that, but I think you have to really examine where they need to be. I don't know if blanketed streetlights is the answer.
Right, we might have to go in almost block by block with a scalpel rather than, you know, a comprehensive, all-encompassing plan.
Yeah.
But there's
Very
always something to do. Well, thank you very much, and I want to close the show by thanking both Rotary clubs of Port St. Lucie, the Port St. Lucie Rotary and
Port St. Lucie
the Sunset
Rotary.
The Sunset, both clubs, for planting trees and using that as their community project. So we have Woodland Trails Park, which is, it's going to be one of the, maybe the second. So we did Boat Ramp Park these last couple of years. And we're really finally coming out of the depths of the depression, and we've climbed out. We're getting back up and running hard. And so we got the Boat Ramp Park done, and now Woodland Trails Park down just a little bit off of Becker.
Right, I live in Woodland Trails, and I always tell people,
Oh, you are? You're in Woodland
I'm
Trails?
in Woodland
Oh,
Trails.
that's awesome.
So go online and figure out what neighborhood you're in, and I am actually in Woodland Trails.
So it's going to be a really nice park. It's going to have a playground and fitness equipment and an area for dogs. And it also has a natural area that lost its Brazilian peppers. And so now it's more open than people are used to. And our Rotaries are responding to the tree challenge, and they're beautifying, and we love our Rotaries. And also, you mentioned, you know, you're a newer resident and you're actively thinking about your community. You like that it's beautiful. We work really hard, and it's a never-ending battle. There's a lot of litter out there. People like Gary Smith over here with his safety vest on, he's got a group called People Serious About Litter, and they go out and pick up litter every day. So you have some of your fellow residents who really put a lot of time and money and effort into it. We're lucky to have Keep Port St. Lucie Beautiful, our kind of affiliation, where we have 100 groups that have adopted streets. If you're not part of one of those groups, we hope you are. And please keep Port St. Lucie safe, beautiful, and prosperous.
Even if you're doing it on your own, I'm not formally a part of Larry's group, but I've known Larry for a long time. But I get out there with my grabbers and my bucket and do my part on my area.
That's how we started the show,
That's
talking about your
yeah,
grabbers.
Yeah, you got my grabbers and the alligator that didn't care. All right, well, thank you all for being with us. I want to thank Culinary Village for providing
Yes,
coffee
thank
and
you.
Danish, and your staff here at the city, and my staff as well, and all of you for joining
That's the
us.
Communicator of the Year right there. Wave to everybody, Sarah.
Is that an
Bosca.
official title, Sarah? Okay, I like it.
She won Communicator of the Year.
She did.
Very proud of her.
Oh, very nice, Sarah. Well, congratulations to you. And we hope that you'll check out all of our events. We have a full list of events coming up in June, stluciechamber.org. It also links to the entire Treasure Coast events, so you can check that out. And with that, thanks.
Let's go catch some dolphin.
Let's go fish in a frenzy. All right. Thank you for coming, everybody. Have a great day.